Welcome back, learners. Have I got a treat for you? Well, I think it's a treat, but then I'm a dorky English teacher. Today I'd like to talk to you about predicate adjectives. Now, predicate adjectives as a concept does build on the previous two videos. So if you haven't seen predicate nominatives or attributive adjectives, lesson 3 and lesson 4, I'd recommend going back and watching those and getting some familiarity with those concepts before you move on to predicate adjectives. Ready? Here we go. Like predicate nominatives, predicate adjectives also come after the verb and connect back to the subject. However, unlike predicate nominatives, whose part of speech is noun, predicate adjectives' part of speech is, well, adjective. Now be careful. You can have an attributive adjective in the predicate of the sentence. That by itself does not make it a predicate adjective. It's all about what it describes, all about what it modifies. We're going to play a game. The game is called Attributive or Predicate. Here's how it works. I'm going to put a sentence on the board. You're going to decide if the underlined word is an attributive adjective or a predicate adjective. Remember, if it's a predicate adjective, it describes the subject, even though it comes at the end of the sentence. If it's an attributive adjective, it will describe the noun that comes next, even if it's at the end of the sentence. Ready? Here we go. Here's your first sentence of the game. The scarf is green. Is green an attributive or a predicate adjective? Green is a predicate adjective because it connects to the subject. It describes the color of that subject scarf. Here's another one. The kids are noisy. Is noisy an attributive adjective or a predicate adjective? It's a predicate adjective because it connects to the subject kids. It describes the kids, but it comes after the verb. Ready for one more? All right, here's the last sentence of the game. The sentence is, I like the blue marker. Is blue an attributive or predicate adjective in this sentence? It's an attributive adjective. If you thought it was a predicate adjective, here's why that's not the case for this sentence. The subject is I. So if this word was a predicate adjective, it would connect to the subject. It would describe, it would modify the subject. Am I talking about a blue eye? I am not. I am not blue. This word blue is describing the marker. So because the adjective modifies the noun that comes next, that's an attributive adjective. It takes a little bit of time to get your brain used to thinking this way, but it is a very valuable skill to have. And we'll talk about why at the end of the video when I make a connection to your real world writing. Just like predicate nominatives, predicate adjectives are diagrammed on the main line, but with a backslash, upper left to lower right. When we parse, we label them with a PA. Predicate nominatives, if you remember, are labeled with a PN, predicate adjectives then PA. Let me show you a few examples before I ask you to try some on your own. Here's our first sentence. They will be unhappy. The subject is they, verb will be. I look at this last word, unhappy, and I think to myself, what part of speech is it? It's an adjective. However, it comes after the verb, so I'm already thinking it might be a predicate adjective. But remember, it could still be an attributive adjective just at the end of the sentence, so I have to do a quick check to make sure it's not an attributive adjective. If it's predicate, which I'm suspecting it is, it will connect to, modify the subject. Unhappy connects to they because they might be unhappy. Unhappy subject. Because this adjective connects back to the subject, I label it PA. And now I'm ready to diagram. Here's my diagram. My subject they will be unhappy, diagrammed with a backslash. Now, if you look, there's nothing visually different about the lines for a predicate adjective sentence compared to a predicate nominative sentence. The only way you're able to tell the difference is by the part of speech. Unhappy is an adjective. If the word was, for example, artists, that's a noun. So that would be a predicate nominative instead of a predicate adjective. Let's try another one. Here's my next sentence. 3 dogs are noisy. Who or what is the sentence about? Dogs. Dogs what? Verb is are. Now I go back to the beginning of my sentence. 3 is an adjective. Now we're talking about predicate adjectives, so the temptation is there for me to label it PA. However, I'm remembering that predicate adjectives come at the end of a sentence. So if it's the first word of a sentence, it can't be a predicate adjective. This is a regular old attributive adjective, and it modifies dogs. Now I look at the word noisy. It's the last word in my sentence. I'm asking myself, what is its part of speech? It's an adjective. What does it do? Does it modify the word that comes next? Well, there is no word that comes next. Does this adjective modify the subject? Am I really talking about noisy dogs? Yes, I am. So I connect it back to remind myself this connects to the subject, but it's not going to be on a modifier line. And I label it PA. Now I diagram. And here it is. 3 is an adjective that modifies dogs. It's attributive, so it goes on a modifier line underneath the main sentence. Are is my verb, and noisy is a predicate adjective. So it's diagrammed on the main line, but after a backslash. I hope this is starting to make more sense. Let me demonstrate one more for you. Here's the sentence. A chemical has become poisonous. I think, what is the sentence about? It's about chemical. S for subject. Chemical what? What's the chemical doing? Has become. That's my verb. I go back to the beginning of the sentence. What part of speech is A? It's an article. Now I think to myself, poisonous. What part of speech is that? It's an adjective. Does it modify the word that comes next? There is no word that comes next. Does poisonous connect back to the subject? Yes, I'm talking about a poisonous chemical. But I didn't put poisonous right before the word chemical. I put it after the verb instead. So that makes it a predicate adjective. And now I'm ready to diagram. A chemical has become poisonous. All right, time for you to try some with me. So get a piece of paper or a dry erase board and get ready to diagram. Here's our first sentence. He could be tired. Who or what is the sentence about? He. What's the verb? Could be. Now, if you're stuck on tired, and I'll be honest, sometimes I get stuck too. If you think about this word as an attributive adjective and it makes sense, then its location would dictate that it's a predicate adjective. Let me tell you what I mean. I'm going to pretend that I'm not sure if tired is an adjective or some other part of speech. So I think to myself, can I put a noun after it and have this word tired make sense? Can I say, for example, tired dog? Yes. How about tired child? Yes. Tired animals? Yes. Because all of those words that came next were all nouns, tired works as an adjective. Now that I know it's an adjective, I think, is it predicate or attributive? Well, if it was an attributive adjective, a noun would come next. There is no noun. So I'm thinking, does it connect back to the subject? Yes, I'm talking about this tired he, whoever he is, as the subject. So I draw a line to connect the two and label it PA. Go ahead and pause the video and try that diagram on your own. Press play and check with me when you're done. Does yours match mine? He could be tired. Before you move on, go ahead and double check. Did you capitalize the H in he? Does the line between subject and verb go below that main line? And is it straight? Does your backslash go from upper left to lower right? Does it look a little too vertical? Coming up in a future video, we'll talk about what happens when that line is vertical. But that's not this video, so make sure that your line is very clearly slanted. Also make sure it does not go underneath that main line. All right, let's try another one. Here's the sentence. The cake was fancy. Who or what is the sentence about? Cake. Cake what? Was. What about the word the? What part of speech is that? It's an article. Now, what part of speech is fancy? Sometimes it's hard to identify the part of speech when the word is in isolation like this. So I know that we're working with adjectives. I'm thinking, fancy might be an adjective. Could I say fancy cake, fancy dress, fancy shoes, fancy party? Yes, I could. Fancy is an adjective. Now, for the million-dollar question, is it attributive or predicate? Because it comes at the end of the sentence, and because no noun comes after it, fancy is a predicate adjective. Go ahead and pause the video, try that diagram. Does your diagram match mine? Awesome! Let's try one more before I give you a series of sentences to try on your own. This sentence reads, the children are hungry. Who or what is the sentence about? Children. Children what? What's the verb? The verb is are. What part of speech is the? It's an article. And how about hungry? If I said hungry children, hungry caterpillar, hungry horse, those make sense. So we know hungry is an adjective. Is it predicate or attributive? It's a predicate adjective because it connects back to the children. It describes how the children are, but it comes after the verb. We label it PA. Don't start skipping that labeling. That's very important to get in the habit now so that when sentences get longer and more complicated, you're already in good habits. Go ahead and pause the video, try that diagram on your own, then check with me. Does your diagram match? The children are backslash hungry. All right, let's try a few more. I'll put 3 sentences on the board. You pause the video, try them on a piece of paper or a whiteboard, and then press play and check your work. Here are those 3 sentences. The story had become long, a cat can be nice, and the first class is the best. Pause that video, remember to parse, remember to label each word in the sentence before you diagram. Pause the video, try that now. Here are those diagrams. The story had become boring. A cat can be nice. The first class is best. Did you catch that first in the last sentence is actually an attributive adjective, whereas best is a predicate adjective? I sure hope so. So let's talk about how predicate adjectives connect to your real-world writing. Just like all sentence diagramming concepts, predicate adjectives help you better understand how sentence parts are related. I'd like to tell you a true story. When I was first teaching, I assigned my students to work with vocabulary words and write sentences with those vocabulary words, using them as the correct part of speech. So some of those vocabulary words, predictably enough, were adjectives. For the sake of the story, let's say beautiful. Some students wrote sentences about the beautiful car, or the beautiful cat, or the beautiful girl, and then finished the sentence with what those beautiful things were doing. Whereas other students would write sentences such as, the car was beautiful, the dress was beautiful. As a first-year teacher, I wasn't sure how to grade those sentences because in my own schooling, I only learned about attributive adjectives. I didn't even know that predicate adjectives was a thing. However, through trial and error, I realized that those students were in fact using the words correctly. They were just in a different place in the sentence. Fast forward a few years, and as I was teaching diagramming, I realized that this was a whole concept. Finally, predicate adjectives help you avoid repetition in your writing. For example, you could write 3 sentences. The child was nice, the child was happy, the child was friendly. And while those are perfectly adequate sentences, they're all grammatically correct, they also sound a bit repetitive and kind of boring. Instead, you could use predicate adjectives interspersed with attributive adjectives. For example, the child was nice. The happy and friendly child helped everyone with a smile. As you gain more familiarity with grammar concepts, both simple and advanced, you will find that your writing becomes richer, more vivid, and more fun to write and read. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Happy writing!